Hello everyone, it's Lennon, and if you are already versed with my channel, you know that I like to study certain idioms and sayings and proverbs and what have you. And I had someone say this particular one to me recently, and I was like, okay, I'm really gonna think about this. Now, growing up in a kind of a strict Christian household in childhood, I will say that I heard this saying a lot. Mostly it was, oh yeah, the road to hell and all that, the road to hell and all that. And I thought, is there such a road? And not to give too, I wasn't going to go too in depth about childhood, but I was pretty weird. And in terms of occultism, I often thought about the tale of Hades and Persephone, and if there was a secret entrance to hell, I really wanted to find it. I was really weird. And I don't think so much that it was that I wanted to go to hell. It was more that even from a young age, I thought that it was more of an archetype and more of like a shadow. Not that I knew what that was, but a shadow place where it lived in our minds. I was pretty convinced of that even as a young age. Like, this isn't some fire and brimstone shit that they tell you it is, right? It's a place in your mind. Like, think about, and I often thought about hell as a place, and if it really was like this, and if it did happen in the mind, and I actually saw this happen in people where they're racked with guilt or shame or those bad emotions that take you over, right? Or like, have you ever seen that TV show Snapped? I think that's pretty old actually, but where the women just snapped on their husbands and killed them, These are real emotions. These are real things people actually go through. And snap, that's something that can actually happen in life. And these guilt and shame things are something that can bog you down so hard that you are living in your own hell. And that's what I always thought it was. Now, the saying itself, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. How I interpret that is evil actions can be masked by a good intention, right? Like, you're having a good intention, but you do a bad thing, right? Think vigilante. The justice system is whacked out, and they think that the only way to get rid of their abusive ass husband, because there's never any evidence, is to kill him. If that sends me to fucking hell, I'll gladly go. It's like, I'm pretty morally gray. But, and not to get into in depth into that, when you act upon a good intention, right? You have an intention and then you act on it, okay? Think law of attraction. A desire turns into an intention and then it has to turn into an action. Otherwise, it's not really a desirable thought. But if I thought about that for a second, if you act on a good intention, there are consequences. Just kind of like a, Newton's law of motion kind of a thing. That if I'm going to act, good or bad intention, mostly good, okay, because we're humans, and usually our intentions for doing something, unless something is chemically imbalanced within ourselves, there's usually a good intention, number one, right? And then we act on it, there can be consequences. Right. Again, I know that it's important to think things through, but a lot of us don't have that personality type. I always liked that be careful what you wish for thing, where it was like, okay, well, if you wish for a car, then your dad or your husband could die tomorrow and you can inherit theirs. And so I actually heard that in like a Are You Afraid of the Dark episode when I was like 10. So maybe older than that, because I don't think we had TV at 10. Anyway, the point is I heard that very young, and I kind of felt like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, right? So on birthdays, when it would be time to blow out my candles, and I would be like, oh, I really want this, and I really want this, I would actually think on, and I was really too young to have these thoughts, okay? I lost innocence in that sense, really young, and I won't say my childhood was full of those types of like really in-depth thoughts like Matilda, okay, but there was a loss of innocence there, because when I would hear these stories, I would really think on it, kind of like I do now when I hear things like this. A lot of people probably don't put much thought into this. But when I hear it, I'm like, okay, stop. I'm putting the stop sign up, and I'm going to really think on how this makes me feel. And I learned that I'm probably a vigilante / superhero that no one would ever know about in another life. I mean, that's just how morally in between I am. But when I thought on the wishes that I made as like birthdays, I didn't wish for things. I wished for like feelings. It was mostly like, I don't know. I guess I can't remember a specific one, but I just felt like I really had to think about my wish. Like, okay, I know we really need money, and I really want to take that dance class because that was really important to me when I was a kid, and I never got it because we were so poor. But let's just say that was my wish, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if I wish for this, I might get a dance class, and then I might break my leg. I was having those types of thoughts, and so it turned into wishes becoming feelings. Like I wish to be happy, right? And blah, 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 blah. But I thought about in spellcraft and in witchcraft too, what could this saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, mean? Now, as I said before, the law of attraction, I study that a lot. The four main aspects of law of attraction: desire, intention, action, belief, right? And I thought, well, what could that mean in terms of like spellcraft and like my witchy spiritual practice, and how will and intention are so important. And when I do a spells to me are I want. And then rituals are more like a offering, like a thank you for this, thank you for that. And rituals to me is more a celebration of what you have. And then when you do spell work, that's more of a, I'm not getting enough, I need this, this, and this. Now, again, I'm going to resort back to my childhood and Christianity, our Christianity, which was Baptist, Southern Baptist. The way they taught us how to pray was, don't ask for anything. Ask for the strength to do it yourself. And I always actually loved that, because I thought about all the people asking this God for things. And I thought, how selfish is it to just ask this deity? Everyone, think about, like, you watch those movies and they're hearing someone's thoughts, and how like, that would make someone feel to hear everyone's thoughts. And I thought, why would I subject my deity to that? So, more on that later. But the praying aspect, I really liked that, because I thought, well, then that's actually getting me to think about how not to ask for something. And so I've incorporated that same kind of a mindset into my spellcraft as well. Instead of like mostly when I started out, my spells were like what? Like, I guess you would call it good magic. Spells for love, spells for happiness, blah, 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 gaining that. And I've actually had spells in the beginning backfire on me. And backfire in like a hex way, okay? I actually have stories for that. And I actually have stories that have backfired in love too. Asking for love and then getting it, and then it being a toxic relationship or something. Those types of things. And So I've kind of learned how to map will and intention, a good intention, how to really think on whatever my intention is, and how not to make it into a wish, how not to make it in a please give me, give me, give me, and how to word that in a way that it benefits everyone. And not in a I want to please everyone way, but in a let's good karma, right? Let's judge out some good light, and that way what it comes back to me isn't, isn't that I've just forced the universe with I want, give me, and they're gonna give it to me. It's kind of like I want the light not to be like, oh, I want the light to be like, oh, I also think about what could potentially be the spell's consequence. That's important too to me. Is anyone going to get hurt physically or emotionally from this? Can anyone? Even if it doesn't have to naturally happen, right? But if it's something that could potentially hurt someone, like I really want, let's just say for example, I really want my husband to love me in a way that he just can't stand it. And then he loves me too much and won't get up and go the fuck to work. Like, we don't want that to happen. Like, we all need to go to work. Can't all lay around and have sex all day. One thing I actually love to do when crafting a spell, when thinking on a spell, usually my spells are really simple. My spells, because I don't ask for things, my spells tend to be like a way for, if the universe has something to tell me, this is how I'm opening the circle, and this is how you can tell me. I'm actively here. Instead of you blasting me with signs, it's a way for me to get in touch with, and then the source is coming down right into my head. So that's kind of what spells are for me. But when I craft, if I have to craft a spell, I kind of think of the 7 deadly sins. Because that's where the consequences are going to lie. If my spells and wishes tend to go more greed, vanity, right, better hair, lust, I just said the husband thing, I try to, if I'm wording something, like writing down words for a spell, then I try to reword it to where none of those will be in effect. Am I being greedy with this thought? Am I being vain with this thought? Am I being prideful with this thought? Am I, I'm the best. That's vain, isn't it? But envy also. Am I being envious? Am I wishing for something because somebody else has it and it's for the wrong reasons, right? That has been so powerful for me, is to think on the 7 deadly sins, and to think on are these spells and even these rituals, are any of them tied to the 7 deadly sins? Because I feel like if anything is going to backlash you and bitch slap you, it's going to be something you asking the universe for something within those realms, within those 7 realms, that you're either not ready for, so the backlash is going to be painful with that, because it's going to be like tower moment after tower moment, or you were never meant to have those things. And then the universe knows that. And then you keep asking for it, but you're never ready for it and won't ever be. It's basically like then you lose faith, right? Then you actually lose faith in the universe, because you're like, well, you're not giving me what I want. Well, the universe is sitting there shouting at you, you're not taking what we're giving you that you need. So that's just been really powerful, is to think on the 7 deadly sins. Think about money spells. A lot of people do money spells. Money spells have been great. I kind of like to think of money spells in terms of prosperity and abundance. Instead of asking the universe more money, because there can be a consequence with that, right? That can turn really quick into greed, right? If we turn if we turn that and reword that spell to be abundance or prosperity, you can gain those two things without money. And it's about, let's say the universe gives you some abundance, right? And you're getting showered with abundance. When that happens, there's a sense of peace with that. And you're getting what you need, right? There's a serenity getting abundance. But then there's a serenity with being it's almost like asking the universe to be more at peace with what you have already, even if that's a little bit. Then I need more money because this, and this. Because then that could be, I need more money to buy more tarot decks because I'm envious of this person who has a whole collection. Or I need more money because I need to live a specific lifestyle, right? It could be vanity, whatever. I'm telling you that the 7 deadly sins have roped my thought pattern in spell and ritual craft. So it's been so profound that it's just not even funny. And I started this conversation out with the road to hell because this, I guess you would call it an idiom, maxim, whatever. The road to hell is paved, if it is paved with good intentions. When you start out with a good intention, you need to know what to do after that, especially in witchcraft. When I think of my good intention, think of if you're doing a spell for someone else, right? And my good intention is I want this to heal you. I want this to blah, blah, blah. And then they have an adverse reaction, right? Or an allergic reaction even. That can sometimes happen. Especially if there's herbs involved. But you start out with a good intention. What do you do after that? And I'm not saying you have to map out your whole spell, because it doesn't work that way. But knowing the consequences, knowing whether or not they're connected even a little to a 7 deadly sin, okay? And journaling about your intention, even a little bit, it expands the intention, right? And then when it turns into desire, you really need to think on also, is the desire part of, is the desire connected to one of those sins that could have backlashes? On the opposite side of that, you could think of virtues, right? You could think of temperance. Like when you think of temperance, I like to think of, when I think of that virtue, and I think about like nothing in excess. I think that's what that means. It's so, I want to feel that. I want to be able to know my limits, know my boundaries. And so that's what the virtues are all about. So not only is your spell ritual craft related or could have consequences that could relate to the 7 deadly sins, which is how I do it, then think on the good intentions. How did it turn into a desire? Was it because of envy? But then look at the virtues. Am I being temperate with this? One thing before I leave you is that a common misconception that I have found with research I've done into witchcraft, into spell work, is that we all think that we're going to get results. We all think that we're going to get results from our spells out there, out here, but we're not. The results of our spellcraft is going to come from within. So I hope that this road to hell, whatever the hell that means, chat has been informative, because I really wanted to just blast you guys with what I've been thinking on the last couple of days when I got told this, and talk about some good intentions and talk about what that means to me and my spellcraft. And hopefully you can take what you've resonated with in this chat and incorporate it into your work. So I hope to see all of y'all again. Much love.